Welcome to KUAM News' Decision 2014. I'm Jess, Lujan, your host. I'd like to introduce also the producer of my show, Keen JC Conception, running the boards. Glad to introduce, of course, former colleagues of mine, the legislature from the 27th up to the 29th, actually. We have incumbent Senator Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, Democrat, and former senator and actually former Lieutenant Governor running mate to Lieutenant Governor Michael Cruz. I mean, did I get that all right?
No, the sister of the brother of the barber's niece.
That's right. Former Senator Jimmy Espaldon. Good morning, colleagues. How you doing?
Good morning, Jess. Good morning. Happy day, Guam.
You know what?
Day,
I like it better when I'm in this position, because you're not disagreeing with my amendments and all that, right? And so everything I say has to be germane. You're not going to challenge that. So I like it better this way. But again, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning, and most especially the people of Guam in regards to Decision 2014.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, I tell you what. I guess we can say that we're going to allow women first, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
I tell you what.
You're gonna put me on the hot seat?
Well, yeah, you're on the hot seat. Okay, your name, your number, and your platform.
My name is Tina Rose Munoz Barnes. I am a Democrat, and I'm number 6 on the left-hand side. And my platform, Jesse, a senator, is as I continue to promote tourism as a part of housing oversight and municipal affairs. I hope to continue that platform. We know that health, education, and safety are very important, but we also want to make sure that the preservation and the showcasing of our island is also put up on the priority of the listings that I want to continue to work with. I continue to be oversight chair of tourism, and we've got to bring new resources to our island, and I think that tapping into new markets, we worked with Russia. We now see China coming in, and the journey still needs to move on. We need to look at the cruise industry. I've been working hard with GVB and the stakeholders from the Micronesian cruise, and I think I have my plate full.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I mean, how about the Lujans and the Guerreros as well? Not just the cruises, okay? Anyway, Jimmy, you got a minute.
Well, good morning, everybody. And my name is Jim Espaldon, and I'm number 10, I believe, number 10 on the Republican side of the ticket. If you're asking for a platform, and again, I think you're going to agree with me on this, Jess, as well as you, Senator Tina. The way I have to approach this as a new candidate coming in is that, in essence, my platform and my principle for running is basically to serve. And so the platform essentially is to pass good policy, working with the community, working with the stakeholders, getting the input, taking a look at all the issues. Because if I focus in on just one issue, it really takes away from all the important matters that are out there. Mm-hmm. And we can all agree, right? Once you get in, say for example, Senator Tina, she's in charge of tourism. Of course she needs to focus in on those type of issues. So depending on, first of all, what committees I might sit on, that is where my attention will be. When I was in the Senate, a senator in the legislature, I was oversight chair for infrastructure, for natural resources, for tourism, for military affairs, for federal affairs, a host of other committees. And so all the issues related to all those committees were really the focus of my attention. And so going in, I pledge, bottom line, that I will use all my abilities, all my talents, anything that I can bring to the table to make sure that good policy is passed for the long-term good of the people and what is in the best interest of the people.
Okay. Now, again, let me start with Senator Barnes, and I'll be remiss if I didn't ask the question. This making, of course, the headlines, and I'll ask you the same question as well, because as Republican legal counsel of the legislature, you wrote an opinion in regards to the question that was posed to the Supreme Court. Congratulations first that the legislature prevailed in its question to the Supreme Court. Now the Guam Election Commission has said, well, they don't want to second guess the legislature. This comes as a form of a referendum. Therefore, the 50% plus one is applicable in this sense. Does this now mean that the Santos Amendment, the blank ballots, will count as a no vote in this situation? And I don't think that was the intent of the legislature. upon the passage of the bill that went before the Supreme Court with ultimately the question?
Well, Senator, I want to share with you that when we were deliberating on the floor, there was a motion. I introduced an amendment on the floor to give legal counsel the ability to make any technical changes. When we talked about the legislative submission and it going to the people for the question, we said if there was any technical process that needed to go into this, then that they would have that opportunity. So when we submitted it as a submission, it was the legal's final decision to work with what was the right technical process to give it in to so that we can give it to the governor.
Basically meant that if the legislature submitted that when it went before the people, it would be the majority of votes cast, right?
That was the intent.
Okay. Senator Espaldon, you were the legal counsel for the minority, the Republicans. You wrote an opinion as well, and your opinion was actually likewise the opinion of the majority. Likewise, your legal counsel, Julian Uggan, who ultimately argued the case before the Guam Supreme Court. Your legal analysis of this and whether or not it's really a referendum, and should they consider that a referendum, 50% plus one, and likewise the Santos Amendment being applicable to this process as a legislative submission?
I'm not sure what that question was.
Well, I mean, whether again the people of Guam need to adhere, whether the
Santos Amendment
actually will come to play, and with 50% plus one, because based on Guam statute on a legislative submission, it's just the majority of the votes cast.
Right, but then we would have to at least acknowledge the presence of the Santos Amendment.
Sure,
because.
Sure.
Even with that language, and in any language in any bill, say for example it does go forward, the precedent is already there that the Santos Amendment is valid at this point, unless it's overturned somewhere along the line or repealed, and that has not been done yet.
Okay.
So even though we're talking about the majority, I would imagine, and again this is just off the cuff, that it's the majority inclusive of the Santos Amendment applying. So if there is a cast of a vote, if there is somebody who does not cast a vote for or against it, it right now casts as a no vote. And I think that until that is either repealed or amended, right, that it applies.
It's like us in the legislature. You pass 3 times, it counts as a no.
That's right.
Even if we didn't say no.
Even if we didn't say no, exactly.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it still applies. And again, that's just off the cuff. And and really, when I did the legal analysis for the minority on the question, really the question was, should this issue go before the voters? Because that's exactly what the court decided on. That was the primary issue. It was not whether to legalize medical marijuana. It was whether the election commission should put this on the ballot. And that was the key issue on that court decision.
Okay, so again, whether or not in your view, whether or not the 50% plus one is applicable to that, we cannot dismiss the Santos Amendment, which has not been overturned at this point.
Not at this point, at least in my opinion, right now, off the cuff.
Yeah, and I think I'm not a lawyer as well, but that's my opinion as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go back to this, because this is an issue again. The Organic Act always comes up. The fact remains now is this, our political status. Our political status, because it always comes up, things like this. I mean, even now, you have agencies at this point that are going even beyond ministerial duties, okay? And you are a different branch of government with a lot of powers, as with every other branch of government. They have their separate but co-equal powers in this government. It's looking now like other branches of government are intruding into that. Now, in regards to political status, what is your view on our political status? Would you strive for a political determination vote of the 3 statuses that are there right now? Do you think they're still valid, independence, statehood, and free association? And if you think it is at this point, is there another status? What do you think it should be? From what you know and what you studied at this point, if you were to vote on November, and if it was on the ballot, what would you vote for and why?
Are you asking me?
I'm
or
asking you.
Senator?
I'm asking you. Then we go to.
Well, I'll be real honest with you. That's still on the table in terms of going for a vote on political status. And I'll be real honest with you. When that issue first came up many years ago, and that was probably 20 some odd years ago that issue first came up, I was actually offended. We migrated here. We're of Filipino descent, and yet this has been our home. And I was thinking at the time, like, well, wait a minute. How come I don't have a say in this? This is my home. I should be able to have a say. But as the discussion evolved and as I started listening closely to all sides, I then realized that my love for this island, the love for this people, transcended my own personal feelings. And I do now believe that the vote has to be taken, or should be taken, by the indigenous people, by the Chamorro people of this island. Where would I go? I think that we have to probably re-examine the options. Now, those 3 options are still on the table, but who's to say that we couldn't formulate perhaps 1 or 2 other options? Because we have evolved, as well as the world has changed. And then we see different political statuses that have been forged by other entities. Palau, the FSM, Saipan now as a Commonwealth. So I don't think we should limit ourselves to just 3 choices at this point. Maybe we should examine what other alternatives, and maybe there's a mutation of those various 3 options out there that might even be better for us.
Okay. Thank you. You have a minute 20.
Thanks, Senator. I just want to say, sharing some of the sentiments with Senator Espaldon, I think it's important that the options on the table right now are independent statehood or free association. I think that we should have that right to determine our status. I believe in my heart that we're still a colonized island, and I think that that should change. We should determine who we want to be. But the key here, and he's brought up some merits, the key here is education. And we've worked on that in the past, and we've tried to move forward on this with no success. But it is important that here today, education is key. We should get it in the high school level and the secondary level. We should get it out in the community, within the villages. But the Department of Chamorro Affairs and the Colonization Commission should be able to bring out the education to the people. And I think that that is key.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, along the lines of our political status and rules and regulations, statutes that are imposed by us, not by us and not our representatives, but people who are voted on from other districts, other states that have nothing to do with Guam, but everything to do with how it is governed. The Jones Act. Jones Act is a very real thing, and when I say the Jones Act, I'm all inclusive of both airlines and shipping at this point. What would you do again should you be reelected and reelected to the 33rd Guam Legislature to force the hand of whoever the delegate may be, and likewise the legislature to come to the same page and get us to get a waiver from these the Jones Act, and because as much as we want economic prosperity, as long as we are grabbing by the cojones in these things, we still are very limited on what we can do, on what we can go out and try to bring in regards for us to economically prosper. Senator,
You hit the nail on the head, Senator. I want to share with you that the key issue here, again, is revisiting this issue to the forefront, bringing all the stakeholders to the same table. And I've always said that if there's pros and cons to an issue, you bring everybody to the table so that you can come up with an amicable agreement. But I will tell you that our non-voting delegate to Congress is key into pushing this issue forward. If the drive is not going to be done by our congressional delegate, then it's not going to be easy for us. Our voices need to be heard. And with that, the collaboration from the community, all the stakeholders coming in to look at those issues, because there still needs to be a lot of changes. And let me tell you, it's not being fair for Guam.
Okay.
You know, you hit a very sensitive point to me, and I think actually to the rest of the island, because what you're talking about, essentially, if you boil it down to simple words, cost of living and quality of life on this island. cost of living is determined by some of the rates that are being charged because of the Jones Act, because of the airlines they're allowed to essentially monopolize our routes. I mean, and then you take a look at what's happening today. The whole incidents, few incidences with United Airlines, and yet we have no other option to go fly straight to Hawaii,
That's right.
and we're paying top price. I understand from my mom and my sisters and everybody else who's traveled that way recently, it's like we don't even have a movie on that plane. I mean, and again, but it's a small things like that because
You're not fed an economy either.
and we're not paying well, unless you pay out of pocket
Yeah,
after
that's right,
paying a
that's
premium
right,
price.
yeah.
But you hit it on the head in terms of our relationship with the federal government needs to be negotiated, needs to be discussed because they determine our quality of living. If you really take a look at a corresponding issue, the Compact of Free Association and the costs that are involved with the migrants that come to Guam, essentially Frank Blas Jr. was correct when he was leading that charge when he was in office, right? It's like, well, wait a minute. For every $1 that we spend for these new migrants, we're only getting 16 cents in return. And so when we start talking about the issues like the hospital, right, not being able to fully fund them, not being able to give Department of Education exactly what they need to be able to educate our young people, and all the corresponding facilities, again, we have to take a look at that. The dollar amount is like, well, wait a minute. We have to spend on an unfunded mandate from the federal government, and yet we're only being reimbursed 16 cents per. So it's things like that that we need to go back with our federal government with, and talk to them, negotiate with them, and see how we can act with Congress and the president.
Thank you. You hit another thing, the hospital. We've all dealt with hospital situation. I remember when I was the vice chair of the hospital.
That's right.
Under Senator Mike Cruz, Lieutenant Governor Mike Cruz at the time. Senator Mike Cruz labeled a bucket full of holes. Now it is a bucket without a bottom at this point. Administrator Verga had just arrived from Philippines and looking to partner up with St. Luke and trying to bring these expertise back here. And I applaud those efforts. It's great. Your dad was a doctor,
Yes.
and it's great to be able to bring some of the expertise back to our people who won't be able to travel. The problem is we still haven't identified how we're going to pay for it, because you bring the expertise back here. It's great. People will be able to be looked at from these, but we still have to pay for that. So the non-payers will continue to be non-payers, and the payers will still be burdened with a higher cost. What is your remedy? Are you willing to set things out on the table? As a matter of fact, Senator Barnes, we were together in the 27th Guam legislature when one of our first actions is to privatize GTA. Look at where we're at this point. Are you willing to sit down now and say, put everything on the table? Is it time to consider, to see the options, and maybe it's time to say, maybe the government just can't be in the hospital business anymore?
I won't say yes, no, maybe so.
Okay.
Only because there's a lot of issues at stake. It's not a clear-cut solution. One of the things is, of course, we have a new hospital coming up. We're going to see those who can afford or who want to go there will go there. The issue we need to address is what we're going to do to those people in our population who can't afford or don't have insurance coverage, and we're seeing a lot of it right now. So again, it goes back to the previous question that we were talking about, and that was our relationship with the federal government. For us to fully fund, to be able to provide the services for those who cannot pay the high fees associated with privatization, right? That we need to make sure that the federal government kicks in what they had promised to kick in. When it comes to the issue of comparing GMH, the whole GTA issue, I think that's comparing apples with oranges. And that's because at the time the GTA was for sale and going for privatization, we were the only government-run telephone facility in the whole nation, and the technology was advancing far beyond the capacity and the capabilities of the government to be able to keep up with. The hospital is a different issue. That's a social service that, again, those at the lowest end of the echelon, right, cannot need access to it, but cannot access necessarily privatization. And so I have to question whether privatization is really the way to go, or maybe there's a public-private partnership that can go in that would take into consideration what the people, or the common people who cannot afford insurance, what they would need.
Okay, thank you. Senator Barnes, you have 1:30 to make up the other.
Senator, I want to share with you that Guam Memorial Hospital has a mission mandate that cannot chase or turn away any patient that walks through that door. You need to know that as we look at the programs today, what is making money for that hospital should be continued to be enhanced. More resources putting in there. A good example is the labor and delivery room. Having been talking to the doctors, Dr. Shea taking charge of enhancing and renovating labor and delivery so that our families can come in and enjoy the birth of their child. I'm going to tell you, those are the things that we need to look at. We enhance the programs that are making money there. We look at what's hurting us. We bring the federal funds that we can tap into and get. We need to look at, we cannot revisit the mandate that says we cannot turn anybody away. We cannot. That's a part of why GMH exists today. But we should take that, we should take an audit, work that audit from top to bottom, and really take the time to give all those programs that are working within the hospital, to keep that. If we have to do a public-private partnership, let's revisit that. But we should not be able to outsource everything that's making money for that hospital. So if the program is making money, we keep it, we enhance it, we renovate if we need to, but we shouldn't be taking and giving the things that make money for the hospital.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Now, issue, again, power and water. I'm sure constituents are calling constantly. You guys are going to be dealing with this. Should you be elected, you're going to deal with this as well. Recently, there was a bill actually in regards to the I guess the solar panels that are supposed to be erected in I guess 4 DOE schools. Now DOE pays the tune of about $1 million in power a month. GPA came out and kind of says, hey, slow your roll, because wait a minute, this is I mean, we've got bonds out there that we got to pay, and these things are going to affect it. Well, and when that happens as well, I mean, power payers, okay, are going to have to be increased to go up. What is your solution? We've seen now that solar is paying off, but people that are installing, they're going from triple digits to double digits, maybe even single digits at this point. Is it time, again, to revisit and look at maybe we need to remove fossil fuel, maybe not even gas, that maybe they got to invest in this more solar and get us some batteries and things of that nature? Your thoughts?
Senator, I want to share
Power
with
and
you,
water, okay.
Power and water. I want to share with you that I've been an advocate for renewable energy. We as a government and as a community need to look at the modern technology that is revolving and that we've have an evolution to. We need to look at solar, thermal, wind, biomass, and all the new technology that's coming into place today, Senator. I think it is important that we as a community can continue to visit that, but more importantly, as we have successes that work today. Ben Pangalinan's law that gives credits to those who work with renewable energy, and other legislation that can be put into place when we see that technology working for Guam. And it's happening today with the schools. St. Francis is one of the models that photovoltaic is working with them, and they said they've saved their power consumption by more than 20 to 30%. So those successes should be implemented into the community, and residents should be looking into all these new technologies coming in as it relates to renewable energies.
Okay, thank you. Senator, you've got a minute 20.
All right. Well, I can't disagree with anything that Senator Tina Munoz Barnes had just said. But I think to further this discussion, I think the Utilities Commission and GPA have to really acknowledge the existence of the technology and factor that into the long-term plans, as opposed to saying, okay, here's our plan and this is the way we're all going to go. Because essentially what it comes down to is the cost of living. Can we afford to keep paying rising utility costs, in the face of rising gas prices, of rising food prices, and whatever else is rising out there. So any way that the private consumer can save, it should be their option to be able to do that. And I think this is where the Utility Commission as well as GPA has to acknowledge that there are technologies out there that we're going to have to look at as individual consumers to lessen the cost, because we're just trying to pay, survive and put food on the table. So it's upon them, it's upon the utilities company to be able to, acknowledge it and factor that into the long range plans.
Okay. Shift a little bit. Recently, we've got again talking about this military buildup. Recently, the designated site or the preferable site at this point is Ritidian. Are you in favor of the firing range to be placed up in Ritidian? Why or why not? Senator.
Oh,
there we go.
I thought you said ladies first.
after you.
After me, okay, thank you. You know, that's a difficult question to ask, because sometimes you want to try. Of course, we as public officials would have to advocate for the best interests of our island, and you've seen the leaders in the recent past advocate for that when Pagat was the preferred site, and when even Finnegaisen was one of the areas they were looking at, and there was concerns about the boaters, and there are now concerns with placing the fire range at Ritidian. The issue, though, is it within the federal government's purview, and in particular in this case the Department of Defense, to be able to locate it there? And if it is, then I'm not sure that we have much say. I mean, we can stand up and protest against it, but we have asked them several times to move it and reconsider the other locations that they had identified. And in the end, where do we stand on this buildup? If it's necessary, and I have heard some comments out there that, well, there's some firing ranges that are underused and probably could be converted, and I don't really necessarily know that. And again, this is where somebody, when we get in, if you put me in, this is where we sit face to face with the military leaders and say, okay, let's really try to understand this a lot better, because in the end, it might be the preferred choice.
There we go. Minute 20.
Senator, nobody wants a firing range in their backyard. But the reality is, for the protection of our island, for the protection of our country,
It's got to be in somebody's backyard.
it's got to be in somebody's backyard. But I will tell you, the military has a very big blueprint. They have 1/3 of the island. And I truly believe that if that protection needs to be here, then let it happen. I support the military, but not at all costs. We've got to make sure that the community will benefit both inside and outside of the base. But let me tell you, that blueprint in the military here with Uncle Sam is big. And they can put it in their yard.
There we go. Okay. Now, hey, we're going to wind up now. But thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Let me start with you again. Please tell the folks again your name, your number, what side you are on the ballot, and what will be the first thing you do again should the people of Guam allow you to work for us again in the 33rd Guam legislature.
Thank you, Senator. Hafa de Guam. My name is Senator Tina Munya Barnes. I'm from the village of Chalampago, and I want to share with you that I'm number 6 on the left-hand side. I want to continue to be your public servant. If I'm reelected to the 32nd Guam legislature, I know that health
33rd.
33rd Guam legislature. I know that health, education, and safety are very important, but I will continue your work to promote tourism, work closely with the mayors, continue to better the quality of life for our families who want new housing, and I want to be able to work with Hagåtña and restoring it back to its original glory, and working with the Hagåtña Redevelopment Authority.
Thank you very much.
Sinamasi.
There you go.
Thank you. My name is Jim Espaldon. I'm number 10 on the Republican side. And I basically bring some very definite abilities. One of them is the ability to think critically. And I think as we really take a look at the issues that are confronting us, and there's so many. You can't just isolate one and say that's the priority, because really we have so many things we have to take care of. I would like to be able to contribute my abilities and my skills and my training to be able to help move this island forward and into the next phase of the century. Because again, I really believe with the opportunities that are coming up, with this potential buildup and the tourism markets that the senators are working really hard on, and the folks at GVB, that we have some real opportunities to really determine our own destiny, to shape our our own destiny and really lay the blueprint in terms of how we best manage our resources and how we grow into the future and what we leave for our children and our children's children. And that's what I would like to partake in.
Well, colleagues, I want to thank you very much again for joining me this morning. I like you better in this site. It gives me room to criticize you, but anyway, as I do. But anyway, all those sides. Thank you again very much for being here, and good luck in this upcoming primary. Actually, the primary is only to get rid of one Republican, or just remove one Republican from the general election ballot.
One candidate.
Yeah,
yes.
one candidate and one Democratic delegate. Right?
And I hope it's not me.
there we go. But thank you very much. Hey, join me Monday morning, 8:15 to 8:45 as well, when we have two more candidates. We have Frank Ngakta Jr. From the Democratic side, and Felix Benavente, Republican. That'll be Monday morning. You can see this show as well tonight at 7:30 on local channel 2. Likewise, it would be on our KUAM YouTube channel about 11 o'clock this morning. And also this show will be rebroadcast Monday afternoon at 3 on KUAM TV.
Watch it.
Watch it.
Watch it.
I'll talk to you again Monday morning. See you then.